On this episode, we discuss a very expensive Mac, Google moving along with their password security feature, the SLS core stage being declared ready for launch, and Windows 10 updates accidentally going out to everyone. Plus, we talk about what cord-cutting services we have our eyes on for 2020. This and more in this week's show.
I'm SP from Legends of S.H.I.E.L.D., a show about the general Marvel comic universe, part of the Gonna Geek Network, just like the show you're checking out now. Shows on the network are individually owned and opinions expressed may not reflect others. Find other hilarious and fun geeky shows at GonnaGeekNetwork.com.
This is the official GonnaGeek.com show. Each week, we run down the latest news and happenings in the world of geek. These are your hosts for the show, Steven, Chris, and SP.
Welcome to an all-new episode of the official GonnaGeek.com show. I am Steven Johndrew, and I am pleased to say that Chris Farrell's here again this week.
He says pleased right now.
I'm always pleased when you're here because that just means that there's a good chance that we can both drag down Stargate Pioneer.
And you can gloat over being able to watch Star Trek Discovery, whereas Chris and I, not so much, and I refuse to get CBS All Access. By the way, Steven, just want to let you know, I was watching the intro. I saw the 3 frames that you put in there from previous shows of mine, and I just got to tell you, every time I see that, I get a smirk on my face, a little giggle, and I really enjoy it. So you chose wisely, those 3 little frames.
For the audio listener, we do have a full video companion of this show, which has a video intro there. That's why there's sort of awkward pauses by our names, because there's a short little clip there for all of us. And SP's, it's really interesting. He is licking Chris in my ear in all 3 clips. It's very odd, very awkward.
Pretty close. There's a little bit of fondling of an Echo Dot. There's a little bit of me using a headset in a car. There's a little bit of me actually flying a drone and trying not to get hit by the drone that I'm flying. So yeah, it's all fun.
Well, let's go ahead, though, and move into our news. Should we do that at this point?
I think that's the only thing left to do.
Okay.
If we have to.
Let's kick it all off with a piece of news that I know is a personal thing to do with Chris Farrell. This is something that he has actually put his pre-order in. If you didn't hear that a little while ago, SP put a pre-order in for a Cybertruck. And
wait, did SP put his pre-order in yet? Last we'd heard he hadn't decided.
I put my pre-order in from a non-autopilot version 2 motor, but I am still thinking about that triple motor.
So you could put the triple in now and then just cancel one of them later.
Yeah, that's right.
So SP put his pre-order in for a Cybertruck, and Chris Farrell put his pre-order in for the thing he's about to talk about right now.
Sure I did. So when I originally saw this news story, it was an attempt for me to be like, let's laugh at Apple. And as I started doing a little bit of research on it, I went, I'm not sure if we can laugh as much as we'd like to, because I'm not quite sure I'm as informed as I need to be to mock properly. But what am I talking about? Late last week, Apple began selling its new Mac Pro, a computer described by the tech giant as, quote, extreme in every way. So if you're familiar with the Mac Pro line, this is not aimed at the typical American consumer. The tech giant says the machine is, quote, created to let a wide range of professionals push the limits of what is possible, end quote. So what does that mean? It's geared towards professionals like coders, game designers, graphic artists, things like that. So for podcasting purposes, you're not going to see Steven buying one of these. He's going to buy like 3 of them, but that's beside the point. But most people are not going to buy one. Why is that? Because it's pretty cost prohibitive. Before I get into the cost, I want to ask you guys, had you seen what a fully maxed out Mac Pro is going for on Apple.com?
No, I hadn't. I hadn't seen that.
Yes, I have. It's atrocious.
It is quite atrocious. So for those that were not aware, a fully spec'd out Mac Pro will run you $52,600. That is more than the car I just bought a month ago. That is more than SP's truck potentially from Tesla. I think. I can't remember the pricing structure, or damn close to it, but it's a lot of money. And my first reaction was to go, this is so heavily priced. But then I went, maybe I'm not 100% in the know here. So let's run through what the specs are on this nearly $53,000 machine. Now, there are a few things we can laugh at in here, so please feel free to laugh when we get to those parts.
Ha
Okay. So first up, $5,999 for the tower itself. That might be something to make me laugh a little bit. $7,000 for a 2.5 gigahertz 28-core Intel Xeon W processor, which turbo boosts up to 4.4 gigahertz. I've not been in the market for these kind of processors, but 28 cores. That's a lot.
Let's see. That's $250 per core.
Let's get into what is the most expensive thing. 1.5 terabytes of DDR4 ECC memory. It's 12 128 gigabyte sticks. That'll run you $25,000, almost half the price of the Mac Pro. That being said, RAM's pretty expensive. Graphics cards, $10,800 for graphics cards. That gets you 2 Radeon Pro Vega 2 Duos with 2 by 32 gigabytes of HBM2 memory each. For what they are, for those purposes, maybe that's a good price. Again, not my industry. $1,400 for 4 terabytes of solid state storage. That's probably a bit expensive, but yeah. $2,000 for Apple's Afterburner card, which I was not familiar with what it was, but it is a card that basically accelerates rendering on certain codecs and accelerates reading of certain codecs, so it'll help speed things up. And here's the thing you guys can laugh about. $400 for a steel frame with 4 wheels. $100 a wheel, guys. They better be the best damn wheels I've ever seen in my life.
Those are some good wheels. We don't know. They could be gold plated. We don't know.
They probably aren't. And wow. This price, by the way, does not include the cold room. The airflow room. You see that you will have to house this thing with 28 cores, 12 sticks of DDR4 128K memory, and then the video cards that are from 2030.
Well, you guys do know the one thing I didn't mention with this computer at all is, displays. This doesn't include a display either. No. If you want to get a monitor, you can buy Apple's new Pro Display XDR monitor with standard glass for $5,000, or you can get the fancier display with what they're calling nano texture glass for $6,000. I have no idea what nano texture glass is. At this point, I was laughing a lot, so I decided not to research more. Now, that being said, these displays, I believe, are either 6 or 8K displays, so they're pretty powerful displays. But $6,000 for a display on top of the $53,000 you're spending on the Mac Pro plus tax, you're talking over $60,000. I know from my perspective, and probably from everyone else on this panel's perspective, that's a lot of money. And I'm not going to get nearly much use out of that computer to make up for that. The question I would have, and I don't have the answer for this, is if you talk to some of these folks who are like in graphic design, or they are in 3D effects or heavy programming and things like that, is this actually a good price for a rig of that type? My assumption is probably a bit high because of the Apple tax, but maybe it's not as ridiculous as it sounds. Maybe people are already building incredibly expensive rigs and we just haven't realized it because that's not the world we live in. But I do know from a regular consumer standpoint, I see a sticker price of $53,000 for the max specs of something and go, oh, holy crap.
Let me give you a little Apple history lesson, guys.
Please do. Please. Let's sit around, SP. We're going to sit on the floor. Story time with Stargate Pioneer as he gets his book out.
Yeah, you got to sit on the floor, and I get the fireplace behind me, and we're just going to have a fireside chat with Uncle SP. In 1983, January 1983. Yeah. Apple released this little thing called the Lisa. It was a desktop computer.
The Mona Lisa?
No.
Mona Lisa smile.
Yeah. It had 2 5.25-inch floppy dual decks, basically. It had a little, 5-inch CRT or something like that. I don't know how big it was. The green and black sort of just standard monitor, and it had a keyboard that flipped up into it and a separate printer that you would have separately, of course, to it. That retailed for $9,995, which is equivalent, according to Wikipedia, because that's where I went to see this information. I actually used a Lisa computer back then, by the way. We'll get into that story later. It's equivalent in September 2019 to $26,240. That's
expensive.
The Lisa computer. Now, wait, there's more. Wait, just hold on a second.
You just Steve Jobs me. I like it.
About 18 months later, in September of 1984, they released the Fat Mac. The Macintosh 512K was nicknamed the Fat Mac. It had the little 3.5-inch disc. It had the same kind of CRT monitor, except for it was better. And that retailed for $2,795, which was equivalent to $6,740. So if you waited 18 months in 1983 to 1984, you'd have saved $20,000. So if you're looking at this Mac Pro going for $52,000, which is $2,600 more than my Cybertruck will be, not including tax on either. You could say, if you just wait 18 months, you're going to save roughly, we'll just say $40,000.
How many GMC Sierra 4x4s is that?
One. It's a Cybertruck, man. It's a Cybertruck.
All right.
So there
is
you
story
go.
time over? Can we get?
Yeah,
can we get
story
up?
time.
Okay, cool.
Story time is over. You can get up. It would be ridiculous for you, even if you were a company, to buy this today. Wait 18 months and you will save your wallet.
But it's actually not as ridiculous, and I know I'm the Mac hater, because that could be a couple of high-paying jobs depending on the industry. That might be, if you're needing to replace gear now, then who cares about that savings that much if it means that your staff is more efficient right now? And
so you don't get a Mac Pro, you get something else that's equivalent that doesn't have the stupid Apple tax on it.
But it all comes down to what the industry standard is for whatever industry is buying this. I agree. I think it's overpriced to a degree, but I also think that there is an actual practical use case for this, especially when there are industries that largely rely on Mac for what they do. And if you're exchanging files with other people and other companies and things, you might have to have that format. So I think there's definitely a reason for this.
That would be a stupid industry to be in, and you could save yourself a lot of money by getting into an equivalent industry that didn't rely on this Apple architecture, which is going to cost you so much money.
I think you just insulted the entire entertainment industry.
That's fine. If they insist on using Apple products that are overpriced, even for students, yeah, I'll say it.
But there's a difference between student purchases and what these like graphic design and development studios are getting. They have a requirement potentially for more horsepower and things like that. And from their perspective, the difference between buying a fully spec'd out Windows workstation and this is a rounding error on something if you're talking about big enough numbers.
I cannot believe that you guys are the Apple lovers here and I am the critique here.
Look, I will go with what I said to start this story. It is entirely possible that the price here is reasonable for what it is. I suspect that it isn't, but I'm not properly educated enough in how these would be used by graphic designers, programmers, things like that, to know if this is a good or a bad deal. I do know a lot of folks in those industries love and swear by their old Mac Pros that they've used for many years, including the tube-looking one that had all sorts of stuff that hung off of it. There's a big fan base around Mac Pro products, and then they were pushing Apple for many years, if we go back 2 generations, to do an upgrade to it because it languished in whatever that version was then for like 6 or 7 years, I think it was, without an update. So this is something that professionals have been clamoring for, and there's got to be a reason. It's just I'm not in the right industry mindset, what have you, to be able to accurately gauge it.
I'm just going to say that I think that we look forward to Chris Farrell's experience because he has pre-ordered this. I said it at the top.
Oh, yes, I forgot. Steven told me I pre-ordered this.
Yes, he did. And it's okay because I understand this is only like an eighth of your annual salary.
Well, the joke's on you because I'm expensing it to Gonna Geek.
I think he needs it to do a 3D render of a Cybertruck with side mirrors on it. I think that's why he needs this.
Look, all I need is Photoshop and Twitter.
All right, well, let's move from Apple and move over to Google. This is a bit of a follow-up to something we touched on, I think, in an extra a while ago. If you remember, there has been a little bit of movement over the years to use some of those leaked passwords in a manner that actually helps people. And Google implemented a feature where they were able to add an extension or something like that, that if you entered and you used a password somewhere that was potentially compromised, it would help alleviate that and not let you use that or something to that effect. Well, this was an extension that was apparently quite successful because Google has now advised that the password checking feature is going to be integrated into desktop and mobile versions of Chrome 79. So these password check features essentially, through encryption, it does encrypt it on your end, so it's not sending raw data. It's encrypting the data and comparing that encrypt hash against a database, is checking to see if you're using an email and password that has been compromised somewhere so that you know that you are using something that has been compromised. Now, this is important to note because while you might be signing up for a service, let's say you were signed up for abcservice.com, and abcservice.com, if you're signing up there, then obviously your information is not leaked for abcservice.com. But the thing is, you don't know that xyzservice.com, where you use the same username and password, was not compromised somewhere, and thus they could essentially try it or connect the dots or get into your email and then try to hack that way. So this is an interesting thing to see for me because this was cool when Google went and they created this extension, but I like the fact that they're feeling so confident that they're going to just bake it right into Chrome. I think there's a lot of people who think they know what password security is, but they don't know what password security is. And they also think that if it can happen to other people, it doesn't happen to them. So I'm glad that this is kind of highlighting those people who might be victims of this, that, hey, there's potentially an issue.
It's a smart move. I mean, in recent versions of Chrome, I can't remember when it was, but it's been the past couple months, it started offering password suggestions where you can have it develop and build a strong password for you that's random and it will save it for you. It's a play by Google, number one, to kind of replace some of those password saving services out there, because if you use an Android phone, it's effectively baked into Android. Like you go and log into your Facebook app, if you've saved that password with Google Chrome, it's going to have that password available for you to log in with. And B, it's making people be potentially safer on the web because, like Steven had mentioned, if I reuse the same password in 6 places and it's been compromised, Google's going to be able to know and tell me, you don't want to use this password. So could arguably lead to less breaches. And from a consumer point of view, it intrigues me, but I can understand where some people would be weirded out by it. Yes, the science makes sense and the logic makes sense that they encrypt it and hash it and make sure that they're not actually viewing your password when you send it in. But a lot of people don't trust Google, don't trust Apple, don't trust Facebook, things like that. Like, I don't want them to know my password to my bank or to my Netflix account or something like that. And I can understand where there might be some trepidation and reservations from folks. I assume there's a way to opt out of the password check stuff if you so decided to, but I'm not super concerned for it. That being said, I'm fairly heavily bought into the Google ecosystem, so I am biased. Keep that in mind.
Did you say there was going to be trebuchets involved? Is that what you said?
Oh, I want some trebuchets. Can we launch things across the border to you?
Yeah, why not?
You want some contraband watermelons or something? Like American watermelons?
Yeah, and then I'll go ahead and I'll send you some Kinder Surprises because those aren't allowed either down there.
Can you send me some Star Trek Picard?
Sure, sounds good. I'll just, every episode, I'll just go and I'll take and print off every single frame, and then I'll put it in a package and then we'll launch it over.
You can just burn me a DVD if you want.
No, because they'll find that if they just see a stack of paper of every single frame from the episode.
That's a good point.
Yeah.
It's a good point. I should have known better, and I thank you for correcting me appropriately because I feel bad that I went down this path of trying to take the easy solution versus the best solution that leads to no trouble for everyone. So I'm sorry.
Perfect. SP, what's your thoughts?
I think this whole password thing, I was thinking about this the other day, and there's going to be an evolution in passwords. Passwords aren't going to be around forever. Yes, they're standard and they've been around since computers have come out. We were joking before about the Lisa, but basically passwords have been around since then in the 80s and actually the 70s. But I think that we're going to evolve past it. I think it's going to be some sort of two-factor that doesn't involve a password. I think it's going to be bio part of it. And I think another part is going to be, I don't know if it's machine-based or what, but I think we're going to get beyond passwords really quick because passwords will be viable for another, 5 years or so. But as we were saying in the previous news segment, with computers getting faster, cheaper, everything, it's going to be able to break encryption eventually on most standard passwords. And it's just going to get to a point where passwords are not going to be viable anymore. So whatever they could do to make them more secure in the meantime, and I don't care what platform it is, Google, iOS, or Windows, it's going to be for the betterment of everybody because so many data breaches have made so many email accounts, social security numbers, and passwords just vulnerable. You can't use the same password that you used to use even 2 years ago.
Well, and you mentioned two-factor authentication. We need to move away from SMS two-factor authentication as soon as possible. Yes, it sounds good on paper, but it's arguably one of the weakest ways to two-factor authenticate. One of the interesting ways you're seeing now is instead of, like when I log into my Gmail account, it doesn't send me a text message unless I tell it to. It pops up a notification on my Android phone that says, did you log in from here? Gives me the IP address and general location, and I say yes or no. And that's my second factor of authentication, is going to a trusted source, which is my phone in this case, that I have unlocked to view the content of and saying it's me, versus sending an SMS message that could be intercepted or read in flight, things like that. There are going to be better methods. And Google's also started putting things out with, they basically have a USB key that you plug into your computer, and that's your two-factor authentication that's got encrypted credentials and things like that on it. We are evolving towards new stuff, but I don't think we're going to get away from the password as soon as you're saying, just because it's the first line of defense that a lot of people are comfortable with. But I think we will strengthen that with other forms of two-factor authentication.
Well, perhaps what we could just start using is carrier pigeons for password authentication. What do you think of that?
So you take 6 days to log into Gmail?
Yeah, why not? It's secure.
I mean, but how are they encrypting it in flight? Are they putting like a cipher? Are they writing it using a cipher on paper and then you have to manually decrypt it?
That's semantics. We'll figure it out.
It takes a lot of time for some people.
If you have a 60 per frame second refresh rate and you have a 1 hour episode, that's 216,000 pieces of paper.
Exactly. And
that's a lot of pieces of paper that he's launching over with a trebuchet. That doesn't even include the audio.
Obviously, we're using a big trebuchet. Obviously.
What I'm hearing here is Steven's going into business with Mike Tyson on a carrier pigeon business. And this is just his attempt to trick us into using his services.
Well, let's move on to the next news point here, which
that
is
wasn't a denial. No denial.
It's not a denial. I won't ever rule out an option with Mike Tyson. SP, what do you got going on in your news point this week?
Well, before I get to that, let's just assume it's bond paper weight that we are trebucheting over. And that is roughly 20 pounds for 500 sheets. So that would be just shy of 9,000 pounds.
Which is why we have a rocket scientist that's going to be on the payroll. That's why. He's going to figure out the math.
It's a big trebuchet.
I think Steven just offered you another job working for him. Hopefully this one pays better than this one.
That's like 2 GMC Sierra 4x4s right there. Okay. So talking about rocket science, we're going to talk about a big rocket, a big fracking rocket. So NASA has actually contracted out this thing called SLS, which is Space Launch System. And it's going to be the biggest rocket that the world has ever seen in operation. And the main stage, the core stage, they're calling it, was declared ready, and it's going to be able to be launched in 2021. So this is what happened last week. NASA just declared the stage ready to go and complete on December 9th, although the rocket's launch is still more than a year away. This is via a spacenews.com article by Jeff Faust. And at an event at NASA's McCloud Assembly Facility, attended by government and industry officials on December 9th, NASA Administrator Jim Bridenstine said that the core stage for the SLS that will fly on the Artemis 1 mission is ready to ship out of the factory by the end of the month. The agency also has yet to announce a new target date for the Artemis 1 mission, which is an uncrewed, and we talked about crewed versus uncrewed last time, an uncrewed test flight of the SLS and the NASA-based Orion spacecraft, which that's their Apollo next generation capsule that they have been developing. Remember, we've been talking about Starliner, we've been talking about the spaceship, we've been talking about Dragon over on SpaceX. Well, Orion is also in development. So Bridenstine said at the event that setting a new date for the mission will be a priority for Doug Lovro, who is the new NASA Associate Administrator for Human Exploration and Operations. However, Bridenstine made it clear he expected the Artemis 1 launch date to take place in 2021 rather than the late 2020 date the agency had previously been targeting. And just a side note from me, in addition to being the primary launch platform for deep space Orion missions, the SLS is slated to help launch the 5 or 6 components of NASA's new Gateway spaceship, which will be in orbit around the moon, and it's currently targeted for completion in the 2026 timeframe. Okay, guys, this is going to be great because this is going to be the gateway, pun intended, to NASA's exploration of the solar system. This is going to enable them to put the building blocks together to go out and do the manned mission to Mars, to do a manned mission to Titan, to do a manned mission to Venus, although I don't know why you'd want to do that.
Because I'm your Venus, I'm your fire.
Your desire?
I don't think you would last 2 minutes on the surface of Venus. It has nothing to
Let's
do
find
with...
out.
Let's
How
send
big
Stephen
is your
to Venus.
trebuchet? We'll find out.
So yeah, this is going to be the great thing that enables everything. It's the SLS. Yes, SpaceX has their huge rocket that's in development right now, but this is NASA's rocket and it's kind of bigger. So we'll see which one's first to the gate, which one actually gets used, and which one enables the exploration of the solar system by humans.
So in the grand scheme of things, a shift from a launch in late 2020 to 2021, I'm presuming like first half, it's probably not that big a deal when it comes to how big an initiative this is.
Can you guess why NASA is pushing it forward to late 2020?
Budget.
It's got to be politics. It's got to be the White House pushing them.
I was going to say the new fiscal year kicks over and starts in October. So
as far as the fiscal year, NASA's budget's been relatively stable. Yes, they've taken some hits along the way, but they're going to have the budget in 2021 to do this. So I don't think it's a budget issue. I think it's purely politics and visibility.
No, you know what it is? They want to get in on my sweet, sweet trebuchet technology. That's why.
They want to get their rockets up before your trebuchet is operational, right?
All right, well, let's move quickly to the extra just before we talk a little bit of streaming services. Okay, so this was something that we have sort of talked a little bit about before. Windows 10 sucks. Okay, we've touched on that a few different times before, right?
only once, maybe twice.
What was that? Windows 10
Sucks.
Sucks.
Yes. We've talked about that many times.
Harsh language.
And
Gosh.
one of the reasons that Windows 10 sucks, again, all three of us being Windows users, is because it sucks at doing updates properly. That's one of the reasons why Windows 10 sucks. And
this is why Steven's buying a Mac Pro, like we talked about at the top of the hour. So if you want Steven to get a Mac Pro, go to audible.com/GonnaGeek and subscribe so he can get his Mac Pro. No, we don't actually have an Audible subscription code. So if it works, congrats, you get some free books.
But
Back
you
to
can go,
Steven.
you can go ahead and buy a Casper mattress. No, we don't have one of those either. But no, seriously, this is another issue where Windows 10 updates have just continued to go weird. because Microsoft mistakenly sent out a autopilot feature on Windows 10 to a bunch of users. Now, the autopilot is a technology that allows enterprise administrators to pre-configure Windows 10 devices so they can easily deploy and manage them on the network. This ended up going out on a December 10th patch during the December 2019 Patch Tuesday, where it accidentally enabled this on users. Now, the bottom line is actually, while this is an example of them sucking, luckily there was no real side effects to this. However, it's just another example on how their updates are being sent out without the right eyes on them, without being checked, and just continuing to suck. Josh Liston, all of this sucking, all of this talking about Windows 10 sucking is all for you, Josh. Okay, so Chris Farrell, let me ask you this. Why does Windows 10 suck?
Because Steven told me to say so.
I didn't tell you to say the Cybertruck sucks, but you said that.
Yes, I hate the Cybertruck, just like I love Laurel Lance. They are my favorite things. I want a Laurel Lance driving a Cybertruck on the new Canary spinoff on the CW. I cannot wait to see it.
No, seriously. Okay, so what's your take on this? I know all three of us have had troubles with Windows 10 updates, but what do you think of this?
Seems like they rolled it back as soon as they found it. It's annoying, but I'm sure things like this happened in older versions of Windows also. So I think it's blown up as much as it has mention-wise because of other problems they've had, but I wager it's probably a problem they've run into before.
And you, SP, from a rating of 1 to Windows 10 sucks, what would you rate this as?
I have to caveat my response and say, no kidding, today at work, and we haven't talked about this before the podcast, so this is news to these guys.
Ooh.
Today at work, my work machine was upgraded from Windows 7 to Windows 10.
You poor bastard.
I'm sorry. I'm sorry for your loss.
That upgrade was a pain for me too.
Couple of good things that happen. I actually get the point where you can lock your windows to different parts of the window and stuff like that. So that was pretty good. But it took me an hour and a half to prepare for it last week. They told us it was going to happen. And it took me probably about an hour to get my profile at work set so that everything was fine. So based on that experience alone, and then seeing this story today, I will say on a scale of 1 to Windows 10 sucks, I will say it is Windows 10 trucks.
Perfect. On that note,
It's on brand.
let's go ahead and move on to our streaming services where we're going to not talk about Windows 10 sucking. So this is a fun little idea that Mr. Pioneer here thought of, that we would talk a little bit about some streaming services that we've got our eyes on for 2020, because this is our second to last episode of the year, and it's a good time to talk about where do we want to set our sights on for 2020 with things, and let's look at some streaming services, because all of us here have expressed an interest to cord cut, and Chris Farrell has actually done it. So let's see, can SP and I look at some streaming services to work towards that wonderfulness that Chris Farrell has, and it has nothing to do with Windows 10 sucking. Let's start off, SP, with you.
Wow, there goes any chance for advertising with Microsoft.
All right, you Windows 10 truckers. Here's what we're going to talk about. We're going to talk about streaming services. Now, I'm going to say what my requirements are, and then you'll get an idea of what the possibilities are. And then maybe you'll come up with some sort of ingenious solution. So there's a little bit of a spoiler for you, meaning there is none for me right now. But I went ahead and looked at the possibility of cord cutting. Why? Well, right now I'm running a 3 DVR cable system in my house, which is costing me an arm and a leg. So I'm like, okay, I finally get it. I want to try to save some money, cut the cord, and just start streaming. Little bit of background on the streaming. I have literally dozens of streaming boxes in the house. I couldn't count how many there are, at least 2 dozen. I have Rokus, I have Xboxes, I have PSA, PS4, I have PS3s, I have Fire Sticks, I have Roku sticks, I have iPads, I have computers and PCs, I have iPhones, and I have Apple TVs. I think it's 3rd generation Apple TVs available. And that's probably not everything, but that's just what I wrote down off the cuff here. So that's what I'm dealing with. It's kind of a smattering. I don't have any Chromecasts, so I don't have that. And I don't have Samsung TV. I don't have LG TV, but I've got that. As a matter of fact, I've been trying to avoid smart TVs like the plague because I just think they get outdated in a couple of years, and I don't want to buy a TV every couple of years.
100% right. I have a Sony TV that has Android TV baked into it. I tried Android TV once on there and went, I'm better off with a box. And ever since, I've used a streaming box connected to it, because when they start to slow and get bad, I just rotate them out into something new. And it's far, far easier.
Full disclaimer, my main TV is a Sony TV in my great room. It is a smart TV, but I never use it in smart TV mode. Never.
Me too. We're
no
Sony brothers.
Yeah, Sony brothers. Yeah. Okay, so here are some channels that I'm saddled with a requirement. This is not a requirement for everybody. This is my household's requirement, and I get it. And as stupid as it's going to sound to everybody in a second, here it is. Hallmark channels. There's 3 of them, and that is not by my requirement, by the way. It's by my wife's requirement. And I'm not talking about the Hallmark Now or whatever their on-demand streaming service is. I'm talking about the live TV channel. That's what I need. There's 3 of them, and I need them.
Would it help if I went to my local store, printed off a bunch of Hallmark cards, because I'm not going to pay for the actual ones, I'm going to copy them, and send them over to you on Trebuchet? Would that be enough to suffice?
What would be really cool is if you could get all of the Hallmark holiday ornaments together, put them on your Trebuchet, and then send them over. Because that would save me a lot of money.
Awesome.
So the Hallmark channels, there's 3 of them. There's Hallmark channel, there's Hallmark Movies and Mystery, and Hallmark Drama. All necessary. That is my wife's requirement, not mine. Like I said, I could probably do the streaming service and get away with it. Here's another one, the Game Show Network. That's not my requirement. That's not my wife's requirement. That's not any of my kids' requirement. That is my mother-in-law's requirement. And she doesn't really have a requirement other than she comes over every once in a while. And that is the only channel she will watch. She's 85 years old. Give her a rest, guys. She gets what she wants. So the Game Show Network, that is necessary requirement number 2. I am going to step in with a firm requirement and say, I need the Discovery Channel. Why? Deadliest Catch. It's a guilty pleasure of mine. Fair. And I want to see it. So Discovery Channel.
There's a couple real dirty places in town. If you come visit me, I'm sure you can get a Deadly Catch from there if you want.
I'll bet I could, but I could get it for just about any major city, especially a city with a harbor. And you're not really, you're more than an island. So you've got a lot of germs there that just stay there. All right. So the next one is kind of my requirement, and it's actually a sticky requirement. The reason I'm saying these requirements, because they matter later on. Okay, the next one is ABC. Yes, the plain old ABC channel, which unfortunately I can't get where I am over the air with an antenna. I've tried, I can't. It's one of the channels I can't get. Why do I need this? Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. Okay, well, you're saying, SP, don't worry about it. After the summer, you don't have to worry. Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D. will be gone. But I say, oh, nay. I'm not the only one with an ABC requirement. My wife and my daughter need to watch the Bachelor series of programs.
Fair enough. Fair enough.
Oh my gosh. They're actually watching a previous season on demand right now on Netflix. It's just like, why? You know how it turns out? And why? No. Okay. Another one that I want to see is BBC America, because as far as I know now, at least the first run Doctor Who episodes will be on BBC America. And I've watched Doctor Who since Tom Baker, actually before Tom Baker, but Tom Baker's my doctor, and I've been watching it ever since. So I kind of need it. So, okay, BBC America. And then I have a couple of soft requirements. One is I want to see the University of Minnesota Golden Gopher hockey team. And if you live outside the main market of the Twin Cities, good luck on trying to get that anywhere. I'm unable to get it now with my cable provider. So that's why I say it's a soft requirement. Now, there is the Big Ten Network, which I can get in a lot of places. The one that's a killer, though, is what we used to call Fox Sports North. I think it's Fox Sports Central now. And all of the streaming services and cable providers have gone away from that. They've just gone to FS1 and FS2, and I believe FS, just your normal Fox Sports Network to your area. So most providers will only give you 3 now. So that's a soft requirement. If I can get it, great. If not, whatever. The other one is the Science Channel. I actually don't have that on my cable package right now, and I miss it. I really like the Science Channel. I've been watching Nova on PBS to kind of compensate. And I saw a really cool Nova episode this year on autonomous driving cars, which we should probably talk about at some point in time. But I would like the Science Channel versus just Nova, which Nova is all I can handle on a schedule right now. But in the future, I will want to see Science Channel. So there's some requirements, not easy to get. Here's what I have streaming right now. I have Disney Plus, which is free right now, but I'm going to buy it when the free Verizon thing runs out. I have Amazon Prime. Again, not going to get rid of that. I shop there way too much, and I save money by shopping through there. Even though I'm paying for the membership, I'm saving money by not going to the store, wasting my time and money on gas. Netflix, I have that right now. I don't have to have that in the future, but like I said, the wife and the daughter are watching Bachelor on there right now, so kind of hard to get rid of that. I do have HBO through my cable. So would I like to keep that? Yeah, The Watchmen was pretty good, but there's not a lot on HBO. So I'd be fine not having that and catching the shows later when they come out on DVD or whatever. I do have Vudu. That's where you actually store seasons of television shows that you buy or movies that you buy. You can store them on Vudu, and movies anywhere. So those are the streaming services that I have existing. All right. Chris, you actually came up with an option that we'll just start with from the get-go. You brought up YouTube TV, which you are using right now, right?
Correct. Full disclaimer, and I did a tap that app on it. YouTube TV is what I'm using as my primary streaming service. I do have a secondary service I am using during NFL football season or regular season. So I've got like 2 more weeks I'll have a secondary service turned on.
So right now you're paying what, $50 a month?
$50 a month for YouTube TV. There is a rumor that they are floating a price hike, probably because PlayStation Vue is shutting down. So there's really less competition for people to run to.
And the DVR, from what I understand, is unlimited episodes, unlimited time.
Unlimited episodes, unlimited volume that you can record. The caveat is a recording expires after 9 months. So if you haven't watched it in 9 months, then it disappears. So for instance, if you are a fan of, say, Rick and Morty or Family Guy or The Simpsons, and you tell it, record that, it's going to record every episode. And there's no restriction. You can scroll through each season and find the one you want to watch that's been recorded. But once that recording hits 9 months old, it expires. And if there's an on-demand version, you'll be able to watch that. But any recording older than 9 months old pretty much gets removed from your DVR.
Okay. Say you're living at home and you adopt 2 kids. Can you, your wife, and your 2 kids all watch a separate screen simultaneously?
Yes, I believe it allows for 3 streams and 6 accounts associated with it. So like when you log into YouTube TV on our TV, there's an account for my wife, there's an account for me. We could do 4 other accounts, but you can only have 3 streams going on at the same time. And most of these streaming services have that same kind of limit. The workaround, however, is say SP, you had 3 people in your house that were watching YouTube TV, and you really wanted to watch something new that was on BBC America. You could have the BBC America app on one of your devices and log in using your YouTube TV credentials and watch the stream on through the BBC app. And that does not count against your stream count. And this will work also for any of these other services. If you have login credentials on these other apps via whoever your provider is, that doesn't count against your stream count.
That's fair, and I'll tell you why that's fair, is because I have a DVR that only allows for 2 shows to be recorded at the same time. My workaround for that is then I go to the cable streaming app on my Roku, and I'm able to watch the TV show live while the other 2 record. So that is even done with cable subscriptions.
Fair. And one thing to keep in mind, there's no limit on how many concurrent recordings you can have going either.
Okay. That's important. So it's available on most of the streaming devices. Do you think that there is a streaming device that you wish was on YouTube TV that you have?
One of my co-hosts, Willie D. Nelson, says he really wished it was on the PlayStation 4. because PlayStation View was on PS4, and that's probably why they didn't allow YouTube TV on there. So for my use case, it's on every device I'd want it to. The last holdout, when I did Chris Taps That App, it had not yet come to Amazon Fire TV. It has now arrived on the Fire TV products as of like a month and a half ago, I think it was.
Okay. So here's my criteria that I'm applying to it. So the channels that are included are ABC, which is actually pretty important that ABC is included because it's not on all the plans. Big Ten Network and BBC America. Unfortunately, the channels not included include the Game Show Network, so I can't have my mother-in-law around. I can't, which you can say is bad, but no, she's going to be around. And then the Hallmark channels are not on there, and Discovery Channel is not on there, and then Fox Sports Central is not on there. So yeah, you're saying, Chris, though, that Discovery might be on your YouTube TV.
Discovery is, and if you go to just the basic channel lineup on YouTube TV, it shows Discovery on there because they actually raised the price about a year ago when they added the Discovery network of channels. So it should have Discovery, Science Channel, Cooking, and things like that, because those are all under the same umbrella, I believe.
Okay, so that's YouTube TV. There is also others. So the others that I looked into are Fubo TV, that's Fobo TV, the Philo TV, Philo TV, Hulu, which everybody's heard about. One that was notable, Chris, you brought up Friendly TV as we were preparing for this episode. That's important, and we'll get back to that in a second. And Sling TV, and then ATT TV, which is the DirecTV Now streaming service, what they've come to. And guess what, Chris? I don't have that. It's not available in my area yet, or maybe ever. I don't know.
It's weird how coverage works for some of those ones, but that does not surprise me. And as a Chris's editorial aside here, there's a lot of rumors that AT&T is trying to find a way to either kill it off or push everything into another service they want to stand up. So just be wary that whatever they've renamed DirecTV Now to could be short-lived in this world.
One that I didn't include in my research is the HBO streaming service, because God only knows which one that I would actually want to get and everything. It's HBO Now or Go, or I forget what it is nowadays, but that's confusing me enough. And you guys think I might be joking. I'm not. It's confusing me enough that I just don't want to include it in this right now.
I completely agree with you.
Now, Fubo TV, that was interesting to me, but then I saw in order to get the channels that I would want, I would have to go up from the primary account or plan, which was $55 and includes 108 channels, to the $80 a month, 177 channels. It does include 500 hours of DVR, but it doesn't include channels like ABC, Fox Sports Network, and Game Show Network on the low plan. So I was like, okay, we're not going to talk about that. The Philo was interesting, but it's only 58 channels. It does not include ABC, BBC America, Big Ten Network, or Fox Sports Central. So that was out. By the way, that's only $20 a month. So if you're interested in a streaming service, there's actually a free streaming service called Pluto.tv and Philo, which is only $20. Also,
so, SP, real quick, in regards to Philo, a lot of how people viewed that one before YouTube TV got Discovery Channel and their stuff like that was a secondary source in order to get the Discovery network of channels. So they could have their YouTube TV subscription, which at that point was still $35 a month, and then pay $20 a month with Philo to get the Discovery channels that they weren't getting through YouTube TV. So a lot of people view Philo as a secondary streaming source, not necessarily a primary choice.
One thing that you brought up before was Friendly TV, and that is only $6 a month, but it's only 13 channels, and it does include the Hallmark channels and the Game Show Network. So that is a good, as you were just saying, secondary source.
Exactly.
In order to get the HD DVR and the 90 days of DVR, then you have to go to the $10 a month plan. And it is only 90 days of DVR. It's not unlimited, but you can stream 4 screens with the $10 a month plan. The other one that a lot of people have is Sling TV. So Sling TV does not have channels like ABC, Big Ten Network, and Fox Sports Central, but it does have BBC America, Discovery Channel, the Hallmark channels, and the Game Show Network. And that would work. It does have different plans ranging from $25 a month to $40 a month, but without having ABC, and this is what I'm finding on a lot of these services, ABC is not there. And I don't know if that's Disney playing up ABC, like they want to roll it in either to its own service or into Disney Plus eventually, or if they have plans just to make money off of it and charge everybody an arm and a leg in order to get it on their streaming service. I have no idea. Like I said,
my understanding on that is it comes down to the local channels they have to make deals with. So for instance, if you don't have ABC in your area on a certain service, it's because that streaming service has not made a deal with ABC in that area. Hence why, like, I see on your Hulu plus live TV, it says on demand only. They have a deal with the national feed, so you get access to on demand content, but not the local station.
okay, well, I want to be able to watch it live. So that's
Sure.
a consideration that seems to be a limitation across the board. No matter how you splice it together, when you take a look at my requirements, I'm not finding an option that just equals what I'm paying for in cable TV. Now, can I splice some together to pay less than I do in cable? Probably. And I'll be doing some look into that in the future. But that's what I'm looking at right now. And that's in the United States. The United States is not the only place that has streaming services. Stephen, you have some that are available in Canada, right?
Yeah, this is an interesting thing for me to talk about, and I'm just going to make it quick because I know a lot of our listeners are American, but I just wanted to provide a little bit of a status update. I've mentioned it. I'm really jealous of Chris, and I really want to see what's available legally, no gray zone, keep it, all above board. And really, when it comes down to my requirements, I'm going to be looking mostly for everything that I get on demand next day. I'd be willing to go on demand next day. And the reason why is because there's not really a YouTube TV option up here with the DVR. That's just not really a thing right now. So I've decided that if I'm going to look to cut the cord, on demand next day is going to be the requirement. And I say that because there's a lot of things that do offer on demand, even with cable providers, but it's not for days later. And that's not good enough for me, because I like to have the conversation. I can probably push that off for a day, but not for more than that. The other thing is I will be looking for TLC because my wife definitely wants TLC. So I got to make sure I've got that. And honestly,
was she a big Kate Plus 8 fan, by the way?
Probably everything that they offer, probably everything. But the other thing as well is I'm looking at, of course, the CW feed, some way to get something like that, because I've mentioned that a lot of the CW stuff is unfortunately optioned through different services. So if I can't get that, then I'm going to have to look at where I can get those individual programs through other methods. Like I'll have to have one called Showcase for the Batwoman and the Supergirl. I'm going to have to probably have Netflix for Flash. Luckily, Arrow won't be around, but there's always going to be things that I'm going to have to look for. And the other idea is that I do like to watch football, so I want to make sure that I have a way to watch football when football is on. So right now, when I look at some of the options, it all comes down to a few main services. Crave TV is one that's going to offer me some movies if I want to have that within the package, as well as they're the Canadian HBO streaming alternative. They've got the rights for HBO. There's also going to be Amazon Prime Video, which you're probably saying, okay, why do you say Prime Video? Well, the thing is, Prime Channels up in Canada, they've got to deal with this company called Chorus, which is a big entertainment group. And they have created a package for the Prime Channels called Stack TV. And essentially, it's certain channels that they've negotiated with this Chorus Entertainment that has on-demand content and live feeds. Now, like I said, there's no DVR, but if you wanted to watch live, you could. As well, the other thing that I'm going to be looking into is what's called TELUS Pick TV. TELUS is a traditional internet and TV provider, but they started doing this thing called Pick TV, where for $10 a month, you get some basic channels. They're the Canadian networks, as well as you can pick 5 specialty. Now, this is where I might get those extra channels that I want, because I can go in and I can pick extra specialty channels like that TLC and other things. But the thing that I have to look at is the demand options, because unfortunately in Canada, a lot of the agreements, I guess it is, don't always offer demand for the Canadian providers. Sometimes you can't get some of these series on demand in Canada. They've only negotiated the live rights. And also, For the football, I think the best way that I can do that, unless it changes next year with the agreement, is one that I've actually been using this year, which is called DAZN, DAZN, and that would allow me to watch football. Those are kind of the main services that I'm going to be able to look at next year. There's actually not a ton up here in Canada, but those are ones that I want to explore and take a look into and see how well does that on-demand work? Because that is the big thing for me. That's essentially the equivalent to the PVR. That's going to be my best bet up here. And I get a really good price with my cable provider. So it's going to have to be the right balance of features and price savings for me to even consider this. Because, you know, right now my hardware, knock on wood, is good as well. If it goes, there's a lot that is available that I can get that's comparable, that's on the used market. So we'll see if I actually get to cord cutting in 2020, but I want to definitely explore these a little bit and see what I can get in Canada, in addition, of course, to what I've got now, which is Netflix, Disney Plus, and just the Amazon Prime basic video, not the additional channels add-on.
You brought up a good point at the beginning there when you were talking about the CW shows. I didn't include that in my requirements because we have the CW app here in America, which we get the 5 most recent episodes for free. The only problem is, and this relates to on demand on the cable services as well, if you don't record it on the DVR, you have to watch the commercials and there's no fast forwarding. Now on the app, I can fast forward because I can go on my computer and I can fast forward. I still have to watch the commercials. Matter of fact, there's catch-up commercials that you're forced to watch as well, but I can fast forward. On the on demand on my cable boxes, I can't even fast forward. It's disabled because they want you to see the show as it was aired. So some limitations, but that is why I didn't include CW. I know that's going to be an issue and a requirement for you.
Chris Farrell, I know you've talked about YouTube TV. You did your full review, but I know there's a couple other things that you're thinking of looking at in 2020. What do you got on your plate?
Sure. So like I said, YouTube TV continues to be my go-to, and they fixed some of the concerns I had. Predominantly, there was that CBS on-demand issue, that there was a rights agreement between CBS and YouTube TV that forced you to watch the on-demand version of a recording for the first 6 weeks. That's gone now, which made me pretty happy. Now, I am dual streaming servicing it right now when it comes to live TV. I think I mentioned it before, but I have Sling TV for probably another 2 weeks right now because I wanted NFL Red Zone. As soon as the regular season of the NFL is over, I'll be shutting that down because I've literally only used that service for NFL Red Zone, which leaves me with my Netflix, Disney Plus, Amazon Prime, and my Vudu / Movies Anywhere for my digital library. Some stuff that I have, but I'm not actually paying for it. Let me explain. Is AT&T owns HBO and a variety of other things. The current cellular plan I'm on, my unlimited plan, I upped my plan for an extra $5 a month to get unlimited plus access to the entertainment. So I have HBO for free as part of my cell phone subscription. I have AT&T's Watch TV service for free as part of my mobile plan. So that gives me a live feed of Comedy Central, which is something I was missing from YouTube TV. And it will also give me HBO Max when that releases, in April or May this upcoming year, because they did say if you have any kind of HBO subscription, you will receive HBO Max. AT&T's Watch TV service, don't pay for it and buy it on your own. It's hot garbage. Gives me like 35 channels with only on demand and no DVR. It's okay, but it's only working on Apple TV and Roku boxes. You can't get on any other devices, which is annoying. And if I'm weak, I might consider CBS All Access when Star Trek Picard comes out, just long enough for the series to run, and then cancel my subscription because there's nothing else I really care about on there at that moment. But that's what I've got right now.
I'm so glad you mentioned that because when I said Crave TV, the big thing, like I said, for mine is that there is some movies in there, but they also have options, some on-demand rights. And for example, they have the on-demand rights to Picard and for Discovery. So that's one of the reasons why they're on my radar. They have a few TV shows where they have the streaming rights. I think they might even have Arrow streaming rights right now. So if you wanted to watch them on demand next day, I think you have to do in Canada. If you're streaming only, I think it's Crave. So that's why they're on my radar. I'm so glad you mentioned that because I forgot to say something about that.
Well, at least you won't have to worry about the Arrow streaming rights in February.
So the bottom line from the segment is that Chris Farrell's better than us. He's cut the cord sooner, and it sounds like he's chosen the best option right now.
I've chosen the best for me. That's the thing. So honestly, I put a ton of time into researching this when I did it. There's no one fit solution that's going to work for everyone. In some cases, you look at it and go, okay, this is missing 2 channels I want. Can I live with that? If not, is it possible for me to, say, buy a season pass on Amazon Prime or something and just watch those episodes the next day? A lot of people do that. Or you could do what other people did, which is get one bundle for everything and a small addition like Friendly TV or Philo to give you the things that were missing. You can kind of build your own package, and arguably it will still be cheaper than what you were paying with cable. But if you keep adding too many on, eventually you might as well just stick with cable, is what it comes down to.
And I think that's something that we're going to see. We're going to start having more people watching certain things at certain times of the year, because then they can drop. You know, we've had Michelle Ely on here several times, and she's talked about that's sort of going to be her philosophy is rotating. And I think you're going to have a lot of people doing that.
That's the problem. You're just not going to be able to get one continual streaming service package. It's not going to be the cable service that you have for years. You're going to have to be adding and subtracting stuff as you go along.
So let me bring something up just as a comparison here. Is I used to watch History Channel when I had Comcast, because it was good background filler content. I'd watch dumb stuff like Pawn Stars and American Pickers and stuff like that. I have YouTube TV, which does not have History Channel. I could watch a live feed on other services, but I honestly stopped thinking about it and realized there was stuff I was watching there just because I was watching it, and giving it up was not the end of the world. And if I really wanted to, they do random weird sales in Amazon Prime season passes. I picked up the last 2 seasons of American Pickers for like 99 cents. I still haven't gone back and watched it. So you might also find that some of these things that are a soft requirement or was a nice to have in your current condition with cable, you might realize when you cut the cord, you watch other stuff, or there's other things you want to consume instead. It sometimes shakes out that way. And I just say that because I've noticed that with History Channel for me, is that I don't really miss it, but every once in a while I'm like, oh, I kind of want to see something, and go, well.
Well, I can always print that out every single frame and trebuchet it to you.
Trebuchet it to me. I'd appreciate that. Yeah. Thank you.
I don't want to belabor this, Chris, but History Channel, I do like Vikings. It's ending soon, so I didn't put that as a requirement. And I think I've narrowed down my requirements for actual streaming shows pretty tightly. I mean, that is it. I don't have any nice to haves on there. And we've come together as a family, and we've really knocked together what our no kidding requirements are, and then everything else we can live without.
Sure.
Or trebuchet. But that's going to go ahead and take us towards the end of this show. Before we wrap up, I want to remind you, we're part of the Gonna Geek Network. The Gonna Geek Network has a bunch of amazing geeky content. If you haven't checked it out, definitely do that. And if you want us to have a show that exclusively uses their hands like Kevin Smith does, SP brought this to our attention last week, then you should get in touch with us so that we can create that show and make sure that we're constantly waving our hands at the camera for the video show. We'll call it All Hands with Chris. That's what we're going to call it, I think, even if Chris isn't on the show.
And you got to say man a lot too. Man, this was great. Man, this was cool.
All right, man.
Yeah.
Man, that's awesome, man.
But seriously, check out the Gonna Geek Network, GonnaGeek.com. We're about to have a little bit of a break from this show. We've got one more after this before we have a week hiatus. Please do check out the Gonna Geek Network while you're waiting for us to return. And Chris Farrell is on All Things Good and Nerdy, which I don't think ever takes breaks. So you can check him out live on Sundays through ever, right?
Yeah, we never take breaks.
Especially when it's on Christmas.
Never.
So for episode 314 of the official GonnaGeek.com show, I'm Stephen John Drew saying it's almost here. Christmas is almost here. And I prefer to think of Chris Farrell as the person behind Christmas.
And I'm SP, and I'm looking forward to episode 9 of Star Wars.
And I'm Chris Farrell, and man, this was a fun episode. I can't, wait to see you all next time.
How many mic bangs can we do?
That was only one, I think. Bye!
Thanks for checking out another episode of the official GonnaGeek.com show. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review in Apple Podcasts or a thumbs up on YouTube. You can always join us for our live recording sessions, which stream Mondays at 8:45 p.m. Eastern at www.geeks.live. And remember, you can find our full back catalog at GonnaGeek.com/show. If you're itching for more geeky content, check out other shows on GonnaGeekNetwork.com. Voice work was by Emily Prokop of the Story Behind podcast. That's it for this episode. We hope to see you back again next week.